9:32 in New York. American jets now dropping bombs on Islamic militants a short time ago. The report suggesting a piece of artillery was taken out by an American F-18. This is in northern Iraq near the town of Erbil. This comes after President Obama approved airstrikes as necessary to protect our personnel operating now in northern Iraq. Pete Hegseth, he served in Iraq as a platoon leader, 104th Airborne Division, also CEO of Concerned Veterans for America, and now works in part as a Fox News contributor. Pete, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill.
I don't know what kind of access the Islamic terrorists have to artillery in the area, but they had something here. The fact that you dropped two 500-pound bombs from F-18s tells you what?
It tells you that those artillery pieces were in some ways threatening U.S. and Peshmerga personnel in Erbil. That's what the president said. This action is narrowly tailored to protecting U.S. forces and providing humanitarian aid. So this particular strike was intended to deter against more action by ISIS against Erbil, which is under siege, and the Peshmerga, which have been more aligned with the United States as they've distanced from Baghdad, is fighting back against ISIS. So this has a lot to do with Mosul, with Erbil, with the Peshmerga and the Kurds in the north, and their ability to partner with the U.S. and also protect these religious minorities under siege.
All right, now I want to pull up a map here in a moment here that shows the northern part of Iraq, and it talks about Mosul, the dam that was taken yesterday by the Islamic fighters, and also the town of Erbil that you mentioned. Mosul had a lot of Christians. They've been driven out there in huge numbers over the past 2 months. Now, there's another religious sect there called the Yazidis, all right? Now, they apparently are stranded on top of this mountain. The UN suggesting anywhere between 35 and 50,000 of them who need water and food immediately. How did the Islamic terrorists that have moved across Iraq unimpeded view this group of people?
We know the Islamic State of Iraq doesn't look kindly on Christians, and they've been persecuting and killing them, and that's what happened in Mosul as they pushed all the Christians out of Mosul. They see the Yazidis, which the most recent siege happened in Sinjar, as lower than Christians. They see them as devil worshippers. They are scum to be killed, and they want to commit against this group if they can. That's why they pushed them onto Sinjar Mountain, where they've got nowhere to go and they're surrounded by ISIS fighters. The Peshmerga cannot get to them. That's where we've dropped aid to these Yazidis and some Christians that are there as well to provide them survivability in order to create an option for them to get off of there or for ISIS to be defeated. But the actions by this president aren't necessarily going to peel back ISIS from that mountainside. That would take a little bit more of an offensive posture than was announced.
The president, you heard him last night, right? No more American forces on the ground, but we have upwards of 750 right now operating in Iraq. Can he stick to that and still be successful and avoid the potential and the possibility for what could ultimately be genocide?
I don't know that he can stick to it, and if he wants to, he will. But can he prevent active genocide by sticking to it? That is very much an open question. What he announced was, by nature, a reactive, defensive posture. You're protecting, you're providing humanitarian aid. You're providing limited strike to protect U.S. personnel. If he wanted to roll back ISIS in order to prevent genocide, that's where you'd have to provide real active support to the Peshmerga, which could use more supplies and ammunition, more support to the Iraqi army, and ultimately air support to those forces, because what gives us the advantage is air support on the ground. But Peshmerga and the Iraqi army would need that from us. That's not what the president authorized, and I think he would need to push back a lot of these elements.
One more question on all this. We had some video a short time ago. Iraqi army troops now delivering some of this humanitarian aid that is so in need for these people in the northern part of the country. When you think about ISIS and how it's rolled across Syria and northern Iraq, if you want to be able to uproot ISIS today, you might have to go from town to town and force it back toward the Syrian border and then ultimately have Assad deal with it. Is that a possibility? Is that a solution ultimately to it?
Ultimately, if you want to defeat ISIS, you have to defeat them militarily. And in order to do so, if you're not going to use U.S. boots on the ground, you've got to more robustly support the assets you have that can do that. And I've argued from the beginning that standing beside and empowering the Iraqi army, what exists, I know it melted away, but it's consolidated, finding the right aspects and providing air support and U.S. personnel support is probably your best chance to go city by city. And then also empowering the Peshmerga force to consolidate support in the north and push these ISIS forces west towards Syria. If it's not going to be U.S. boots on the ground, it should be advisors advising with close air support and other air support to go town to town to remove ISIS.
All right, Pete, thanks. We'll talk again, okay? I mean, listen, if you don't believe what ISIS believes, I mean, you're in their crosshairs. Plain and simple. Pete Hegseth, thank you for that. I want to go to another hot spot of the world right now with